Your story from a scar or your story from a wound? Now, most of us have probably had different scars on our body that actually tell a story. It could be a story of a critical operation that you had early in life, or maybe it was something that you've done that was kind of crazy when you were a kid, or maybe something crazy you did even as an adult. And I'm guilty of that. Several years ago, I had an infected sore or boil that appeared on the back of my neck, and I decided that I'd try a home remedy that I'd heard from my wife's family, where I know this sounds crazy, but you took a pop bottle with water, heated it up, poured the water out, and then took the heated pop bottle and placed it on the sore with the hope that it would draw out the infection. Now, maybe I didn't follow the directions and I got the bottle just too hot. So when I put it on the back of my neck, it actually burnt the sore and it was really, really nasty looking. Now I needed to go to the doctor, and when he looked at it, he was kind of taken back, and he went and got another doctor to see what this strange looking phenomenon was that was on the back of my neck. Needless to say, I explained the embarrassing story. Now, he was able, obviously, to go in, clean it out, and for the next several weeks, I had to have it packed, and eventually the wound healed, and today I have a small scar on the back of my neck. So all of us probably have some type of scars on the outside of our body, but perhaps we also have wounds or scars internally that we harbor in our minds that have affected us in profound ways. Now, my friend Tim Delina, who is the pastor of the Times Square Church in New York City, says in his recent book called Your Life, God's Story, that there is a difference between scars and wounds. A wound that has not yet turned into a scar is a highly sensitive place on the body. Now, he says you can minister from scars, but not wounds. Now, all of us have had different situations and circumstances in our life that have produced wounds. The betrayal, the hurt, the rejection, the slander, or any number of things that seemingly will never go away. Now, I remember as a young pastor over a college ministry years ago that some people who didn't like me or like my teaching, they went after me. And they rallied against me, so much so that they got a petition at an ice cream social, and people were signing it. I was actually there, and of course, I never saw it. As a result of that, I ended up resigning and leaving. But this wound festered to my detriment. It really ended up affecting me, and I went through some very difficult depression, which affected me at my next job. In time, the wound began to heal, and I could see God's hand in it all. The scar that He has left is a story of God's faithfulness in my life through this difficult storm. If it wasn't for this difficult trial or wound, I might not even be here at Spread Truth speaking to you today. Now, when we are speaking from wounds, the tendency is to hold grudges, to become bitter, and to never let go of those things. This hurts relationships and really hurts our relationship with Jesus. The question is whether we will allow the wounds to heal and see that the scars tell a great story of God, of His provision and direction. Now, I quote again from Tim Delina. He says, quote, "I'm convinced that there is a difference between someone who speaks from a wound and someone who speaks from a scar. A person who is still wounded will talk about the people who hurt them. By contrast, those who have a robe on their scars now talk about God all the time. They see God in their painful journey. You don't hear a list of people's names, you hear one name, God. Hey, remember Joseph when his brothers betrayed him? He said, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Wounds will come and they will hurt. If we trust God even when we don't understand, then in time we will see that God is at work in the most devastating wounds. They will heal by His grace. What story are you telling? A story from a wound or a story from a scar?